It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Yeah, some people should be afraid. You might get dumped in, a dump. That's it. Go ahead and check on this. Top U.S. official murdered after Arkansas weapons test causes mass death. There was a gentleman, and it go on, and conspiracies will reign. But it's John P. Wheeler III, Special Assistant to the Secretary of the Air Force. Okay, now Washington D.C. from 2005 to 2008. And he was going to Washington. He's going to expose everything. We'll see if that pans out, how true that is, because you never know. I mean, I'll put it up, because nothing surprises me anymore. And if they want to be, we'll see how true that winds up being. But if it is, I'd be really bummed out if I didn't put it up. So we'll go ahead and I leave, discretion, up to you about how you want to share that. But go ahead and check it out. You have the information there, and let me know. You can email me at freedomsphoenix.com, publisher@freedomsphoenix.com, and once you find out, we'll do some research. It just came up on Freedom's Phoenix here right before we started the show, so I didn't want to wait till next week because Mark Stevens is going to be filling in for me for the rest of the week, and I want to make sure we got that out. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to finish conversation with John Green here because this is what I expect when the legislative session comes in, that they're going to come in with the expansion of the empire, more authority and more ability to take goodies from you because they're running out of money. They don't have money. They're going to need to cut, but they don't want to cut. They got a bunch of people, on the dole. So you have all these special interests and so on that are sitting there going, yeah, man, I'm getting mine. The heck with these other guys, I get mine. Well, how are they going to get theirs? Well, it's going to be a job bill. So John's going to walk us through from the beginning on this and the players, and I'll only interrupt so give you some context and history on this because he came to Arizona later. When did you come into Arizona?
Well, I grew up here, but I came back in 2002.
Okay, so the 90s you weren't here.
Right.
Okay, so the 90s, there was a lot of stuff that happened that kind of, rushed into 2000s, and he became aware of a lot of stuff that was going on in Pennsylvania where he was. When you come here, you find a lot of the same stuff, oftentimes at the same time, that has the same organizations, the same people behind it. So this is a good revelation for all of us, because no matter where you're listening to this show from, I'll guarantee you, you go look at bills, and now they're on the internet, but a lot of times they're not. They get there a little later, So we'll talk about that too. This is how I don't see it stopping. I think the forces are so overwhelming where you have people in positions that will not go hungry. You can go hungry, but they're not going to go hungry. And how they do that is they'll create some pipeline, some conduit for your money to become their money. And if they got piles of cash out there in retirement funds or whatever, well, Goldman Sachs says, thanks for playing, it's all theirs now. So this is going to keep happening, and the revenue stream, whatever's left from us, is going to get diverted to whatever. And you start seeing it in like California right now. You pay taxes for fire and police. And if we didn't have fire and police, anarchy would reign. Well, what they're doing now, if you get in a car accident, the police charge you. They charge your insurance company. They send them a bill. Hey, man, we came out, give us some money. And they go, hey, man, that's not part of the policy. You don't cover that. So they go after the individuals. You'll start having liens on you. And you say, you know what? I don't need you to come. No. We had this right now. Amazon has a warehouse here in the West Valley friend of mine works there, and he goes, they had this, sometimes they have a forklift that goes up and they hit, this guy stacked something he shouldn't have. It's happened before, and they hit the fire sprinkler system and it starts going off and they got tens of thousands of damage or whatever. On top of that, they call the fire department. They say, "Nah, don't come. It's okay. Got to come." Oh yeah, and here's the bill. Tens of thousands of dollars for them to come out to a commercial, blah, 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 and they go, it's, we don't, what we called, we don't, nope. The law, we got to respond, you got to give us money. This is the kind of, you keep talking about all this government you need, where normally if it was a private company, and who would be the ones that would do it cheaper anyway? The insurance company. That's how it used to be done. Benjamin Franklin, that's what fire suppression was. It was they insured you. Rural Metro here in Arizona did it.
Or how about the Pinkerton Enforcement Company?
Yeah, which was detectives, the Pinkerton detectives back in the late 1800s and so on. This is what they do is they'll take a popular service like, everybody will pay for it then. The merchants, the head guy on Main Street, hire the sheriff or whoever. Well, they don't want to have to keep paying for, everybody benefit. We'll just tax everybody and they'll pay for it. Well, then they can't get enough tax revenue out of you, so they're going to have you paying more for it again as a bill for any time you need them. What if I don't need you? I'm good. I got it taken care of. Nope. Your fire alarm went off. We come anyway. So this is all this government stuff you've been screaming about we got to have. Man, all the justification is going to go away. So now they have to have a mechanism by which they can get their money to their buddies. When it's not there, what do? They keep spending it. But now, like California, I don't know how this is going to wind up, but now they're going to want to give themselves eventually taxing authority. So let's go ahead and go to John. Now, John, go ahead and tell me what it is that you've come across, you've been keeping track of, who's doing it, why, how. Spend the rest of the hour, give it what first.
All right, so I got an email from a buddy, during the primary election cycle last year, and apparently the legislators who were incumbent, were circulating around this jobs bill, and they were trying to get all the Republican candidates on board to support the jobs bill. So being the nerd that I am, I read it, right? I actually read the law. And I go through and I'm like, wait a second, there's nothing in here about jobs. There's something about a jobs training program. There's something about a credit of $3,000 to companies over $5 million who are here and employ someone for 3 consecutive years and put them through the job training program.
Corporate welfare.
And increase their contribution to their medical insurance costs. And if after 3 years those people are still there, they get a $3,000 credit. That's just zero. It's nonsense, but it creates a bureaucracy and a lot of spending to try to track it. And then I see that there's extension of some tax credits, there's extension of some taxes, extension of enterprise zone credits, but the big one, 2/3 of the text of the bill, is about this Arizona Economic Development Authority. And I'm saying, well, what in the world is that? So I keep researching. What it turns out is that this Economic Development Authority is a private corporation replacing the Department of Commerce. It's a private corporation where the board of directors is appointed by the governor. Now, as a private corporation, it can do anything a private corporation can. It can raise money in the credit market, which is issuing bonds or debt financed spending. So what we find out is they say, well, this won't cost anything because this Economic Development Authority will build all kinds of projects and it's user fee generated, like the Tennessee Valley Authority or like the New York Port Authority. But the reality is that it's 100, just like the federal government, it's 100% financed by debt issuance, which means that debt has to get paid back. Now, what's the difference in a private corporation run by government? Is that debt is underwritten by the taxpayers. So it will spend, and this is the interesting part, it can raise as much money as the credit market will buy its bonds. So there's no limit. It could be an infinite amount of money they raise. It could be $10 billion a year. It could be $1 billion a year. It could be nothing. Most likely it's going to be on the range of probably 1 to 3 additional billion each year. Now, when those bonds fail, which they will in part or in whole, they're underwritten by taxpayers, so it now becomes a general fund liability.
Taxpayers. This is, we went through this with the Stadium Authority. They created this thing. Remember, We go through this over and over and over. I'm sure you have too. We'll talk about more when we come back. You need to understand this because it's another ripoff.